Okay, I hope you all are well. We are on chapter 17, and this is called the diversities of initiations. And we're going to discuss the major and minor initiations. In dealing with this question of the diversities of initiations, it may be of value to the student to remember that the great moment in which a man passed out of the animal kingdom into the human, which is called in many occult textbooks the moment of individualization, was in itself one of the greatest of all initiations. And that would seem absolutely appropriate. That would be a major time in history. Individualization is the conscious apprehension by the self of its relation to all that constitutes the not self. And in this great initiatory process, as in all the latter ones, the awakening of consciousness is preceded by a period of gradual development. The awakening is instantaneous at the moment of self-realization for the first time, and is always succeeded by another period of gradual evolution. This period of gradual evolution, in its turn, leads up to a latter crisis, which is called initiation. In the one case, we have initiation into self-conscious existence, in the other, initiation into spiritual existence. And that would also be very significant, because at that point, we would be finally beginning to learn who we are and what we are and what this is all about, essentially. These realizations, or apprehended expansions of consciousness, are under law and come in due course of time to every soul without exception. In a lesser degree, they are undergone daily by every human being, as his mental grip of life and experience gradually grows, but they only become initiations into wisdom, as differentiated from expansions of knowledge, when the knowledge gained is A, consciously sought for, B, self-sacrificingly applied to life, C, willingly used in service for others, and D, intelligently utilized on the side of evolution. And, there's a question that immediately comes to mind, just thinking about life prior to this is, and it says here, in a lesser degree, they're undergone daily by every human being. But is that necessarily true when a lot of the days go by and repetition and, use of medicines and drugs and other things that just keep us very dumb? Is there an opportunity there for involution? It seems but they only become initiations into wisdom when the knowledge gained is consciously sought for, self-sacrificing applied, willingly used in service for others, and intelligently utilized on the side of evolution. So we can see that those daily expansions, that would be very gradual for many of us. If we look back at prior to awakening, it would be very, very gradual, almost to the point of stagnant, if not involutionary. Only souls of a certain amount of experience and development do all these four things consistently and steadily, and thus transmute knowledge into wisdom and experience into quality. The ordinary average man transmutes ignorance into knowledge and experience into faculty. It would be helpful if all of us pondered upon the difference between inherent quality and innate faculty. One is the very nature of buddhi or wisdom, and the other of manas or mind. The union of these two, through a man's conscious effort, results in a major initiation. These results are brought about in two ways. First, by a man's own unaided effort, which leads him in due course of time to find his own center of consciousness and to be guided and led by the inner ruler or ego entirely, and to unravel through strenuous effort and painful endeavor the mystery of the universe, which is concealed in material substance energized by Fohat. Secondly, by a man's efforts, supplemented by the intelligent, loving cooperation of the knowers of the race, the masters of the wisdom. In this case, the process is quicker, for a man comes under instruction, should he so desire, and subsequently he has on his part provided the right conditions. There is placed at his disposal the knowledge and help of those who have achieved. In order to avail himself of this help, he has to work with the material of his own body, building right material into an ordered form, and has therefore to learn discrimination in the choice of matter, and to understand the law of vibration and of construction. This entails the mastering, in some measure, of the laws that govern the Brahma and Vishnu aspects. It means a faculty of vibrating with atomic accuracy and the development of the quality of attractiveness, which is the basis of the building or Vishnu aspect. He has to equip also his mental body so that it may be an explainer and transmitter, and not a hindering factor as now. He must likewise develop group activity and learn to work in a coordinated manner with other units. These are the things that a man must accomplish along the path of initiation, but when he has worked at them, he will find the way. It will be made clear to him, and he will then join the ranks of the knowers. Another point to remember is that this effort to make people cooperate intelligently with the hierarchy and to train them to join the ranks of the lodge is, as earlier pointed out, a special effort inaugurated in Atlantean days and continued to this time, made by the hierarchy of the planet, and is very largely in the nature of an experiment. The method whereby a man assumes conscious place in the body of a heavenly man differs in different planetary schemes. The heavenly man, who uses our planetary scheme as his body of manifestation, chooses to work in this particular way during this particular period for his own specific purposes. It is part of the process of vitalizing one of his centers and of linking up his heart center with its connection in the head. As other of his centers are vitalized and come into full activity, other methods of stimulating the cells in his body, the diva and human monads, may be followed. That's us. But for the present, the cosmic rod of initiation, which is applied to a heavenly man, in much the same manner as the lesser rods are applied to man, is being utilized in such a way that it produces that specific stimulation, which demonstrates in the activity of man on the path of probation and the path of initiation. Therefore, man must recognize the cyclic nature of initiation and the place of the process in time and space. This is a special period of activity in the cycle of a heavenly man, and it works out on our planet as a vast period of trial or initiatory testing. It is, nevertheless, equally a period of vitalization and of opportunity. We must also endeavor to realize the fact that initiation may be seen taking place on the three planes in the three worlds, and the thought must ever be borne in mind of the relative value and place of the unit or cell in the body of a heavenly man. The point must here be emphasized that the major initiations, or the initiations of Manas, are those taken on the mental plane and in the causal body. They mark the point in evolution where the unit recognizes in fact, and not only in theory, his identity with the divine Manasputra, in whose body he has a place. Initiations can be taken on the physical plane, on the astral, and on the lower mental, but they are not considered major initiations and are not a conscious, coordinated, unified stimulation that involves the whole man. A man, therefore, may take initiation on each plane, but only those initiations which mark his transference from a lower 4 into a higher 3 are considered so in the real sense of the word, and only those in which a man transfers his consciousness from the lower quaternary into the triad are major initiations. We have, therefore, 3 grades of initiations. And those lower 4, again, we're talking about the chart on page 116 of Cosmic Fire, the Constitution of Man chart, which would include the lower 4 planes and the upper 3. First, initiations in which a man transfers his consciousness from the lower 4 subplanes of the physical, astral, and mental planes, respectively, into the higher 3 subplanes. When this is done upon the mental plane, a man is then known technically as a disciple, an initiate, an adept. He uses then each of the 3 higher subplanes of the mental plane as a point from which to work in his way completely out of the 3 worlds of human manifestation into the triad. Therefore, it is apparent that one might consider as lesser initiations can be taken on the physical and astral planes in the conscious control of their 3 higher subplanes. Therefore, I'm going to read this again. Therefore, it is apparent that one might consider as lesser initiations can be taken on the physical and astral planes in conscious control of their 3 higher subplanes. These are true initiations, but do not make a man what is technically understood as a master of the wisdom. He is simply an adept of a lesser degree. Secondly, initiations in which a man transfers his consciousness from plane to plane instead of from subplane to subplane, wherein comes a point to be carefully recognized. A true master of the wisdom has not only taken the lesser initiations referred to above, but has also taken the 5 steps involved in the conscious control of the 5 planes of human evolution. It remains for him then to take the 2 final initiations which make him a Chohan of the 6th degree and a Buddha, before that control is extended to the remaining 2 planes of the solar system. It is obvious, therefore, that it is correct to speak of the 7 initiations, yet it would be nevertheless equally correct to enumerate 5, 10, or 12 initiations. The matter is complicated for occult students owing to certain mysterious factors about which they can naturally know nothing, which must remain to them as yet utterly incomprehensible. These factors are found in the individuality of the heavenly man himself and involve such mysteries as his particular karma, the aim he may have in view for any particular cycle, and the turning of the attention of the cosmic ego of a heavenly man to his reflection, the evolving heavenly man of a solar system. A further factor may also be found in certain periods of stimulation and of increased vitalization, such as a cosmic initiation produces. These outside effects naturally produce results in the units or cells in the body of the heavenly man, and lead often to events unforeseen and apparently inexplicable. Thirdly, initiations in which a heavenly man may take either a minor or a major initiation, thereby involving his entire nature. For instance, when individualization took place during the Lemurian or the third root race, and the human family in this cycle definitely came into manifestation, it signified a major initiation for our heavenly man. The present stimulation in the hierarchical effort is leading up to a lesser initiation. Each great cycle sees a major initiation of a heavenly man taken on one or other of the globes, and herein again complication lies and much food for thought. Yeah, I guess so. No kidding. To the three above points, we might also briefly add that of the coming in or passing out of any particular ray. And, if you hadn't heard this before, the fourth ray is coming into manifestation more heavily or in a real way in 2025. And that's just to keep that going. We also know that the Master DK is going to bring the newer teachings that are to be presented after 2025 comes around as well. And the fourth ray is conflict through harmony through conflict. And that's something worth contemplating as well. And that's in 2025. And the sixth ray, which is the United States is a sixth ray country, making many of the people in the United States ultimately subject to the sixth ray. It is on its way out of manifestation. So we're seeing these things, and this is another good reason to be studying this material, is so we can actually see what's going on an energetic level, on the esoteric level, on the inner planes, so we can see what this outer expression really is. Little can be said, the little that can be said upon this point, which is one of the greatest difficulty, might be summed up in the following three statements. First, that initiations take on the four minor rays, first, that initiations taken on the four minor rays rank not in equality with initiations taken upon the three major. This is complicated somewhat by the fact that within the planetary scheme, during cyclic evolution, a minor ray may be temporarily regarded as a major ray. For instance, at this particular time in our planetary scheme, the seventh ray of ceremonial law or order is regarded as a major ray, being a ray of synthesis, and one on which the Mahachohan is blending his work. Secondly, that the first three initiations are taken upon the ray of the ego and link a man up with the Great White Lodge. The last two are taken upon the ray of the monad and have a definite effect upon the path for service that will be chosen later by the adept. This statement must be linked up with that earlier made, which stated that the fifth initiation made a man a member of the Great Lodge or Brotherhood on Sirius, being literally the first of the Sirian initiations. The fourth initiation is the synthesis of the initiations of the threshold in the Sirian Lodge. Finally, according to the ray on which initiation is taken, so very largely depends the subsequent path of service. And this is why we study the rays, so we can begin to understand these things and let them become synthesized in our brains. This is very intriguing and very deep stuff, and it's kind of reminds me of astrology, but it's the esoteric side where we get to see what's going on, from the inside out. The day of opportunity. The question might here be asked, wherein this information is of value to the student. In illustration of this, it would be wise if the student would ponder the significance of the coming in of the present ray of ceremonial law or magic. It is the ray that deals with the building forces of nature, that concerns itself with the utilization of the form intelligently by the life aspect. It is largely the ray of executive work, with the object of building, coordinating, and producing cohesion in the four lower kingdoms of nature. It is distinguished largely by the energy which manifests itself in ritual, but this word ritual must not be narrowed down to its present use in connection with Masonic or religious ritual. Its application is far wider than this and includes the methods of organization which are demonstrated in all civilized communities, such as in the world of commerce and of finance, and the great business organizations everywhere to be seen. And just a very quick note on ritual, much of our life, and this is how we don't understand these words completely, much of our life is ritual and habitual. We wake up in the morning, we have a pattern. We either go get a glass of water, wash our hands, or we go to the coffee machine, we get a cup of coffee. These are rituals. We have this much time in between this. We have things we have to do. We generally do them in the same order. We get in our car, we go to work. These patterns they're so ingrained that our lives have become very ritualistic at this point. And this seventh ray was coming in. This was, this book was written in 1922. So you can see how this, is affecting our lives essentially. But if we look at ourselves again, we can see the pattern, and we've become very ritualistic. There was something else I wanted to add to that, but that's all right. Yeah, it's just so interesting. And I was going to say, that leads to, questioning about, how much free will, because this is conversations I've had in the past. With this being so ritual, with our lives being so patterned and ritualistic, how much free will is there in a day to really go one direction or another? Because most of the time we're just going through this, going through the motions. It's like when you break those patterns, you're a rebel, right? Above all, its interest lies for us in the fact that it is the ray which brings opportunity to the Occidental races, and through the medium of this life force of executive organization, of government by rule and order, by rhythm and by ritual, will come the time wherein the Occidental races, that's us, we're the Occident, and then there's the Orient, with their active concrete mind and their vast business capacity, can take initiation. An initiation, we must remember, upon a ray which is temporarily recognized as a major ray. And this is the seventh ray, which is associated heavily with the physical plane, which would be associated with the taking of the first initiation. This is bringing up, there's just so much to think about here. a large number of the initiates and those who have obtained adeptship in the last cycle have been Orientals and those in Hindu bodies. This cycle has been dominated by the sixth ray, which is just passing out, and the preceding and the two preceding. In the preservation of equilibrium, the time now comes when a period of attainment by Occidentals will be seen, and this upon a race suited to their type of mind. It is interesting to note that the Oriental type attains its objective through meditation, the modicum of executive organization and ritual, and that the Occidental will achieve largely through the organization which lower mind produces, and a type of meditation of which intense business concentration might be considered an illustration. And we've had this discussion before. Those who are working on, in highly technical areas, those who are working in coding and computer type things, those who are working in a lot of the new fields that have come around in aviation, even these drone things, working in the internet, designing, the individual can design incredible things. Even children are working in these incredible games where they're building things. What are we looking at? And, this is incredible. I mean, this is good news. Those working in bigger amounts of money at this point, this is all good to develop the mind. And, this is us really pushing the limits of what we've been given at this point. And this is a good thing. And we're being told it will lead to, more people, many more people potentially taking the first initiation during the times, I suppose now. And these books, I think he says, were written for the turn of the century, for those who would be an incarnation at the turn of the century. So we're talking about, those of us who are here now. The one-pointed application of the mind by a European or American businessman might be regarded as a type of meditation. I think that's absolutely true, because these things do require deep contemplations and concentration. In the purification of motive, lying back of this application will come for the Occidental his day of opportunity. By availing themselves of the present day of opportunity and by conformity to the rules for treading the path, will come to many in the West the chance to take these further steps. That opportunity will be found by the man who is ready in the place where he is, and among the familiar circumstances of his daily life. And here we have another conversation that comes up. We are not meant to run off, to a cave in India. That is not necessary. We can do this wrought out in our daily lives, and there does not need to be, enormous upheavals in the life. Come to find out, because I think when we first, a lot of us, I want to say, when we go through this period where it's like, maybe I need to go to India, maybe I need to go to a monastery, maybe I need to go off the grid, go live down by the by the river in an RV. I mean, this is the thought of many, and that's a running away. In a sense, we're running away from life, and that's really not what this opportunity that the seventh ray in this time is providing. This is supposed to be done here in the familiar life. So again, this is comforting in a way, but it also alludes to the fact that we have to change ourselves more to conform to the environment, by becoming more peaceful to what is, right? Because I think initially there's an influx of this energy where, we almost have to run away, or we can't handle certain situations. Well, these are the tests, and this is real tolerance. This is the real human experience. It's not to run away, it's to be in the world but not of it. So this is all good news, but it is interesting to find these things out as we're, many times as we're questioning them. It will be found in attention to duty, in the surmounting of the tests and trials, and in that inner adherence to the voice of the God within, which is the mark of every applicant for initiation. Initiation involves the very thing that is done from day to day by any who are consciously endeavoring to train themselves. The next point to be reached and the next bit of work to be accomplished is pointed out by the master, either the God within or a man's master if he is consciously aware of him. And the reason is given. Then the teacher stands aside and watches the aspirant achieve. As he watches, he recognizes points of crisis, where the application of a test will do one of two things: focalize and disperse any remaining unconquered evil, if that term might here be used, and demonstrate to the disciple both his weaknesses and his strengths. This is not the case. This is not a case where you would want to be treated, very gently and softly. Maybe there's times for that, but our flaws need to be pointed out on the spot very quickly, so we can begin to make adjustments. And these things are recognized, and we do make the adjustments. And our strengths and weaknesses become known to us, and then we learn to work with what we have in our daily life and what we're capable of, and we know what we're not capable of. This is and these tests and crises, if you are going, oh, this is definitely a test, well, it's definitely a test. It's really that simple. You go, oh, this is something that seems like it could be a test. Well, it is 100%. And it's just that, it, and, because you've been working towards something, and where your faults lie, and then, because they've been pointed out to you, through you, and, it's time to take stock, grab a hold. And when you see those tests coming, I want to say you try to make extra effort, but that's not really, I don't think that's how that goes. You live the way you know to live. And then your flaws and strengths and all that, they come to the surface again right there. And then after that's done, you have the next, you know what to work with next. All right. Maybe you've worked through many of the deficiencies that were there, but maybe there's still a few lingering, and you know that's what the focus, essentially. So this is really amazing stuff. And I, because I'm, if you've seen my astrology chart, you would know why I'm saying these things, because I'm stacked up in Scorpio, and Libra and Scorpio in the 7th house. And, I'm going through many tests with everybody else, we'll put it that way. In the great initiations, the same procedure can be seen, and the ability of the disciple to pass these greater tests and stages is dependent upon his ability to meet and surmount the daily lesser ones. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much, is an occult statement of fact and should characterize the whole daily activity of the true aspirant. The much is surmounted and passed because it is regarded simply as an intensification of the normal, right? And this is exactly what I was saying. We're going to live our normal lives, and no initiate has ever passed the great test of initiation who has not accustomed himself to pass lesser tests every day of his life. Tests then come to be regarded as normal and are considered, when encountered, as part of the usual fabric of his life. When this attitude of mind is attained and held, there exists no surprise or possible defeat. This is where we have to get to, friends. This is an amazing, out of all the things we've read so far, to get comfortable in this, to be able to see our where we lack and where our strengths are, and then work on where we lack. This is in the dirt stuff. This is what we need to really make real progress. Know that we're going to be tested. Be prepared. Be aware as these things are happening. See in our daily life how these little things keep coming up and are preparing you for the bigger tests. This is really really interesting stuff. The other piece of advice that I've been given and that I would give, because it's valuable, is, I think, and I could be wrong about this, maybe people do not care, but you probably many want to find out where they're at on the chart, right? And it's like, well, where am I in order to move forward, in a sense, I needed to kind of know where I was on that chart. And I think it's referenced in the books to kind of know where you're at, because in that is kind of knowing yourself and knowing, your evolution to this point and seeing where we have to get to. But as we read, we learn. As we read a treatise on white magic, as we read Initiation Human and Solar, as we read Raising Initiations, we will eventually see where we're at. There's nothing wrong with going through the books and reading, about the first few initiations. If you're unsure, there's nothing wrong with reading about the probationary path, reading about the first initiation, reading about the second initiation, knowing that the third is a major initiation and would be much more significant. So you would know then also about that. But once you get a grasp, a very basic understanding about where we might be, then it's also time to let that go. That's something that can hold us back by worrying and stressing on these things. So these are not things. This is awareness. This is not to be stressed about or get stuck in, or think that you can do something because, as it's been told, this is about magnetism and vibration, and it's exactly calculated. And so whatever we're holding on to can hold us back. And if something is left undone, it will have to be cleared up, essentially. If you're holding on to something, and you know you're holding that's the work. This is all, very interesting, but the door is magnetized, and you can only get through when you have the proper key. When you're keyed properly. How about that? That's interesting. Keyed to the proper frequency. Yeah. So don't stress. This is all amazing news. Just to be involved in this, we could say is, what a great gift. And there's so many implications, and there's so much beauty in this. It does change, the implications. If we've gotten this far to this understanding, then I can imagine that your awareness of the rest of the world has very much changed as well. And if it hadn't, it certainly will catch up very quickly, because it's just the implications are immense. What are we looking at? That was always my question. What am I looking at? And these, the blue books, the Ageless Wisdom, it has the answers that become known in our experience. So I'll leave it there. All right, good stuff. Have a great day. We'll get on to chapter 18 tomorrow, which is called The Seven Paths. All right.